Welcome to Meditation and Aliens with Doro and Matt, a webcast that explores everything we currently know about the truth about aliens, human history, reality, consciousness, and the role meditation can do to help us understand all these things, and how we might all work together to build the best world possible for all beings, human or non-human alike. Meditation and Aliens is hosted by me, Matt Reddy. I'm an amateur ufologist. I have a degree in philosophy. I'm the creator of Hive1.net, an experimental social discussion platform for truth seekers and activists. I'm the author of a book called Revolutionary Mindfulness that's about meditation and activism. I'm also an elected public hospital commissioner in Jefferson County, Washington. Each week, I am joined by Doro Kiley, longtime meditator, a meditation teacher, and an experiencer with many stories, and life coach extraordinaire. You can find more about Doro at her website, creationcoach.com. Now, on to the show. All right. How you doing, Doro?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this show. We're going to cover a lot of ground, it sounds like. So I'm doing great. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm good. We got some snow here in Port Townsend, Washington. Every 4 years we get a little bit of snow.
Yeah, I think we just missed the big one. We got just some freezing rain and a sheet of ice, but I guess up north they got a lot of snow. So
Yeah.
missed it. So
Cool.
let's see. How are we using the call today? What are we or the show? What are we up to?
Yeah. Well, I think we just dive into it. Let's see. So where to begin? I guess, we, for all our many listeners out there, Doro and I were guests on a podcast last night, which will be apparently released in a couple weeks. The podcast was called Everything Imaginable. And it was a fun interview with Gary, the host of that podcast.
It really was. And what a great discovery to discover his channel. I think that's a real gem for anybody with an open mind.
Yeah. He I went through and watched a bunch of his, or listened to a bunch of his interviews, watched some of his YouTube, and he interviews people all over the map. He's always doing interviews with different people that are into UFO alien studies. He has witches, people into witchcraft and mystical things, near-death experiencers. So yeah, he had a lot of experience. It was interesting, just sort of like exploring ideas with him.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I hope he invites us back.
Yeah. Or maybe we'll have to have him on as a guest here.
There we go.
Well,
Yeah,
let's see.
Fascinating. Yeah, what's new?
Well, what's new? Well, a couple things. There is a new oh gosh, what has happened? Did we talk about the Miami aliens incident last week?
I think we touched on it. I don't know that we got into any big detail.
Okay. Well, just I'll summarize. There was an incident in Miami at this outdoor marketplace, and there were like 100 police cars there. There's lots of video of that going around, and there are apparently a bunch of people claiming that 3 aliens appeared and they saw them and ran away in terror, and chaos ensued, and the police confiscated cell phone videos. And anyways, this is floating around there. I made a little mini documentary and put up on my YouTube channel which has 3 firsthand accounts that seem credible.
Wow.
What they saw.
Wow.
So, yeah.
They did show video, and I kept looking and I couldn't see it. Yeah. Maybe you can point it out to me at some point.
Yeah, there's not great video of anything other than there's a couple things floating out there, but in this day and age, it's hard to know what to make of any video evidence. But
well, that's true.
We don't need to talk about the Miami thing a lot. I just wanted to mention that happened.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened, there's a video that has been validated as a valid military recording from an infrared camera of what they're calling the Jellyfish UFO.
Oh, I think I did hear about that.
Yeah, and I don't know, I could, if you want, I could play it on the screen here,
Sure.
even though our listeners won't see it, but they could always go to the YouTube channel and see it. It's really easy to find,
Maybe
the
you can share your screen. Is that
yeah,
possible?
that's what I'm gonna
Oh,
do here
oh.
once I find the correct control.
Yeah, it
Share.
looked like some weird kind of video. Okay, you're going to show it here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jellyfish UFO clip. It's not hard to find. Um, oh yeah, see, I mean, it's on News Nation.
Oh
It's
my goodness, it's everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, I know. This is a show about true crime and mystery, but tonight,
I'm just gonna skip
mystery
ahead to it.
pieced by a journalist named Jeremy Corbell,
Yeah,
who
Look
claims
at
that it was
that.
buried by the intelligence community. Look at this. He
What
calls this
is
thing,
that?
whatever craft it is.
here, I'll mute her so we can just look at the.
Yeah,
Let's see. I'll just
that
see. She'll
is
do a
pretty
couple
weird.
close-ups. Yeah, it looks like a. It looks like a robot to me.
I was going to
Looks.
say it looks like a transformer from
Yeah,
the kids' cartoons way back when.
yeah. It looks like
Wow.
a. To me, that just screams because it's very stiff and it has these dangling
Yeah,
arms, it seems like, and it looks like a droid out of Star Wars to
it
me,
really
this.
does.
And it's going over a military base, and it's on infrared camera, so when it goes white and black, that indicates it's changing temperature,
Huh?
and which actually made it hard for the camera to follow it because it locks onto a temperature reading and follows it. And so that's, but they also said it was not visible to the naked eye, so it was only visible on infrared, which is something that um I've
That's creepy.
yeah, that's something that I've heard before. Who was it? Um, well, yeah, a couple different. There's been several stories over the years that the military, that people have been able to see things, UFOs and different things using infrared, but not with their naked eye.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
there's even a guy that I mentioned before, Chris Lato, who's a big UFO disclosure, former Navy pilot guy, and he says that a company has figured out that there's a specific, very expensive digital camera that if you have them modify the sensors on it to pick up more wavelengths, you can see way more UFOs in the air.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty weird looking.
Yeah.
I don't think
So
I've seen one like that before.
yeah. So this is floating around there. There's a lot of talk about that. It's trending on Twitter.
Wow.
Um, there was a new. I don't have to play the audio from it, but there's this. They've interviewed. This is a interview with a. This is a, I think, a military guy. No, that's an associate there, but there is at least one Marine that says he was in. I think it was Iraq when this was recorded, and everyone on the base knew about it and thought it was. Didn't have a good explanation for it. They didn't find it threatening. They didn't go on high alert for it, but they definitely were seeing it.
Wow.
Yeah, some of them
So
called it the
when
spaghetti
was this?
monster.
Was this just yesterday or
This was the last couple weeks. This has been
today?
floating
Oh,
around there. I finally looked at it um, yesterday. Took a good look at the video, um, and there's a show, a new series, like a 3 episode video series that's just came out on Tubi or Ubi, something called like something Revolution.
hmm.
Is it called UFO Revolution? Yeah, UFO Revolution on Tubi. Yeah, it apparently really goes into a lot of this stuff, and I haven't watched it yet, but I think it has Jeremy Corbell and lots of clips from the congressional hearing, and I think it gives this topic a really good dive, and so I'm looking forward to. And I think it's possible the Jellyfish UFO was first released in that. That might have been part of that. So that's kind of hitting the airways and getting people talking on Twitter.
Is anybody saying what it is or what they think it is, or just that it's a UFO and that's it?
Yeah,
What it's doing? I mean, I guess
I haven't gone too deep, but someone referenced in the video I watched yesterday a book that from years ago that referenced a jellyfish UFO, and they're claiming it might be talking about the same one. Although to me, that doesn't look like a jellyfish. It looks like a robot.
Yeah,
It
it
does
doesn't
not look.
look like a dangly,
Yeah.
tentacle thing. Yeah, I agree.
And I'm just gonna like skim through major stuff. So
Hmm.
the other thing that happened is today, Friday 112, um, the Congress, some Congress people were getting into a skiff, a secure compartmentalized facility to get to talk to apparently the Inspector General about David Grush's whistleblowers allegations in more detail. And here, we're not playing it, but I'm just showing on that UFO podcast that Congressman Tim Burchett is on there today. And he did this last time he went into a skiff and got to hear some info. He went on this show and he just immediately gives some idea of what he heard. And usually he's disappointed and he's not really told anything, but I'll check that out and find out if any revelations came out of that.
Yeah, yeah, I wonder. It's starting to feel like we've got all the information they're going to give us for now, doesn't it? Until something else happens or something else breaks through, something goes through the legal system, or what is it? Stephen Greer is pushing for just a SWAT team to go in and get these,
Hmm.
these people. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, and this is one this is what I actually wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Uh, this is a guy who has a podcast called Vetted, but he's doing a reaction video to the Y files. You know, this guy that talks to
Oh,
a fish.
yes. Yes, he's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
So this is, I think, really interesting. And I'll just, is it all right if I just play a little bit from it? Because
Absolutely.
he talks about David Grush and his suspicion that David Grush is not a whistleblower, um, but that he's, part of an intelligence effort for
Uh,
disclosure, a coordinated effort. So I'll just play some of what he says here.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Let's dive in.
Because once UFOs exist, and I believe we have recovered craft. But I'm skeptical of anyone who's worked in intelligence, because once you're in, you're never out. Whatever's being said about UFOs by people like Doty, Puthoff, Elizondo, David Grush, I take all that with a grain of salt. These are not whistleblowers. These are people who spent most of their careers in intelligence. The things they say, they're allowed to say. They have permission.
Permission from who?
Well, isn't that the big question? Pat Price, the psychic who started it all, comes off as the most credible of all the people I talked about today. He was a retired cop from a small town. He used his gift to solve crimes, to help people. And Pat was a patriot. The CIA asked for help, and he provided it. 4 months later, Pat was dead. In my research, I found something Pat Price said that bothered me. He said this: people have infiltrated all government in sensitive positions, not to control government, the processes, or people, but rather to be in positions of power, to stop politically any activity that may produce a result that could cause discovery. Americans want information about UFOs released. Congress tried and couldn't do it. Presidents have tried and couldn't do it. So if our elected leaders aren't in charge, who is? During Stargate, it was discovered that anyone can learn remote viewing. Some people like Joe McMoneagle and Pat Price are naturally gifted, but the rest of us, with practice and training, it's a skill we can all develop. But that would mean the end of all secrets. That can't be allowed to happen. Secrets are the source of their power, whoever they are. And that's why Stargate was shut down. Not because it failed, because it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's saying that Pat Price guy, I hadn't heard of him, but he said he was part of Project Stargate and he was a gifted remote viewer that the CIA apparently got to help them demonstrate his remote viewing ability. And then within 4 months, he was dead. And he's implying possibly he was killed by maybe the CIA and the secret keepers because he was too good at it, and they had, they been possibly trying to stop people from learning how to remote view because it's a complete threat to the
Oh
continued
my
secret keeping.
goodness. Oh my goodness. What do we do about that? That's
Well,
big.
I mean, there's a ton of people that claim to be able to remote view. They're on the
Oh
internet,
yeah.
like, Elizabeth April and others. So it seems if they were killing people that could remote view, I think they must have stopped at some point. Uh, and that's kind of my theory. I was going to sleep last night thinking about this, and I think, you know, I think this whole UFO alien story has been evolving over the years. And I think, um, I mean, I'm gonna make, I've got this like picture. It's almost like it's like a giant mind map of concepts and pictures and people and organizations uh and locations on Earth. And I'm sort of like seeing how it all seems to fit together. But I think one thing I think the secret keepers, they have killed people in the past. Sounds like they may have killed this guy Price. I think they killed Bill Cooper, who was a big ufologist. He was like killed in the 80s. I think there's a guy named Forrestal who seemed to be part of Majestic 12 who died in extremely suspicious ways. JFK, RFK. But think I think the killing stopped. My suspicion is that at some point, um, people that with a little bit more ethics got control of at least the part of the CIA that was willing to kill people to keep this secret. And I think they got that under control at some point. So that's why Christopher Mellon, Lou Elizondo, David Grush, and others are now able to come forward because they know they're not going to be killed. Because I think they've eliminated that capacity from the at least the part of the CIA, the part of the U.S. government that was able to so easily kill Kennedy, both Kennedys. Um,
Yeah, you know what I'm wondering is I've been studying up on what's going on in space and the solar winds and the Schumann resonances of the Earth have been increasing. And this one channel that I like to watch, his name is, if I can figure it out, well, I'll put it in the link below if we get a chance. But he's saying that everybody, all of their chakras, you could say their energy portals of their energy system, are being magnified because of the Earth's Schumann resonances, and suggesting that more and more people are becoming telepathic, can remote view, are receiving messages. And I'm wondering if if this is why people are coming for. They can't keep killing everybody if it's just more and more and more. Maybe that's what's happening. They can't hold it back.
yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I just get the sense that they're not killing people anymore. I think they've had to give up on that. But there still seems to be secret keepers. There still
Yeah.
definitely seems to be a group not wanting this to happen. But I think they're down to financial and social and sort of corporate weaponry, but not actual violence so much. That's the sense.
Are they starting to cut off funding for this arm of this whole secret program?
Well, they did not pass the full UAP Disclosure Act in the NDAA but I think there was still enough in there. It still does say in the act that passed that if you have a secret UFO program that's not disclosed, you are not allowed any funding. So I think they did manage to say that.
That's
Um,
tricky. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but there's other, so let me see. There's a couple of threads I wanted to sort of throw together for you for what seems to be going on.
Oh, good. I
Um,
love when you connect the dots.
well, and he kind of did it in this. He does it if you watch. Definitely gonna watch the rest of this Y Files video because he goes through the story of the one part of this secret keeper group was called the Aviary, group. Each they had these code names that were birds. Like one was the owl, one was the condor, the falcon, and so on. And uh, some of these players are still alive and they're known now today. One of them is this guy Hal Puthoff, who apparently was the owl. But he makes the point that David Grush, and Christopher Mellon, Lou Elizondo, these are all people that come out of the intelligence community. They all are former CIA or intelligence agents. And so he says, we can't just trust that all these people are just these noble, free speaking whistleblowers. And
Yeah.
he implies that they are still working for a part of our government, but it might be a sort of a break off part of our government that has broken away from the secret keeper part of our government. At least this is the picture that I think is going on. I don't think the whole government is united. It seems like the CIA and the deep state and the military industrial complex, Lockheed Martin, they are just fighting to keep all this hidden. And there's some group that wants at least limited disclosure. They want to tell the people of Earth that there's non-human intelligence, and they are here, and we have some relationship with them, and we have to have some sort of understanding of this. And it seems Grush, Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, this Rear Admiral Gallaudet from the Navy, Ryan Graves, David Fravor, Commander Fravor, Alex Dietrich, they're all military or intelligence. They're all sort of obeying this very carefully limited plan of disclosure. And they all actually, and this is what I'm going to show on my little picture, is like there's certain topics, every single one of them they all have the exact same message. They will not talk about any of the locations on Earth that the UFO community has suspicions there's some seriously big stuff going on, like Antarctica, S4, under oceans, inner Earth. They won't touch on any of those type of topics. They won't talk about Bob Lazar. They won't talk about Element 115. They won't give Bob Lazar any credibility. And the most risque thing they do, or that at least Grush did, is mention the Vatican and mention the Catholic Church having a connection back in 1933 and 1945 to handing over a UFO. So that is like the most, I think, risque thing they've done to really stir things up. It's like all they're willing to say is there's something real and you're not being told the full truth. And they claim there's a crash retrieval reverse engineering program. The Vatican is involved. It's like they don't want to say a word more than that.
Yeah, get themselves in trouble.
Yeah.
I think there are two camps of people who are kind of observing this, and let me know what you think. I think there's the ones, those who are thinking, okay, this is a very controlled disclosure, little by little, we're getting as much as we can. The other camp is that this is a controlled setup leading up to this Bluebeam project. So yeah, who knows which way this is going to, is this real? Is this not real? How do you deal with the anxiety of not knowing what's going on? So you, Matt, you're kind of in the camp of it's a controlled disclosure, right?
Well, I name those guys, gals, I guess it's mostly guys. They're part of what I call the USA and the pro-USA controlled disclosure group. They want a limited amount of disclosure. They clearly are pro-United States, and probably they're protecting the United States military's knowledge of alien technology and stuff. And they seem to be obeying some controlled disclosure plan that the US government and probably the Gang of Eight in Congress, maybe even the president, they're all a part of. So that's just one group. There's a bunch of people I put into a wild card group, like Bob Lazar, Stephen Greer, Linda Moulton Howe, Diane Pasulka, Gary Nolan, and
what do you think the difference is? I mean, aside from those people are not military, right?
It's just the topics it just can put them on you can just show they will talk about these topics. They will speculate about Antarctica. They will talk about different types of alien species. They will speculate about technology, and they'll go into these fringe, um, less understood areas, and abductions. They will talk about abductions. All
Ah,
the military guys that they will not touch the abduction topic. They won't give it any validity.
mm,
Um, and the wild cards, I don't know if they're, I don't know where they sit. And you can do the same thing with the media. There's certain media companies that are completely on the side of the secret keepers. There's certain ones that are just seem to be on the pro USA disclosure, and they'll just go along with what these military former intelligence disclosure advocates once said. And then there's total freeform media that will just explore everything, like Linda Moulton Howe, and some podcasts, like ours,
yeah,
will just
yeah.
go anywhere.
So what do you
Um,
think the actual end result of this could be? What are the possibilities?
yeah, it looks like it's building up to something. It's going to build up to some sort of climax of all of this.
It does feel like it's going to reach
Yeah,
a tipping point somewhere, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the House of Cards is gonna come crashing down all at the same time that we achieve, full artificial intelligence and Tesla bots that can replace all human labor. Bitcoin will be, completely, I mean, the entire world economies might have a weird experience, but we'll have cryptocurrency and Bitcoin as this at least one thing we can rely on as a hard asset that has a controlled, trustable supply. Um,
Did the recent vote on the EFT Bitcoin make a difference in that projection you just made, or is
oh
it
yeah,
the
the ETF, the
oh,
Bitcoin
ETF?
ETF
Yeah.
launched like 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday was the first day of
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Yeah, which is a landmark. I mean, it's just basically going to enable every person with a retirement account or investment account to be able to take part in the have a piece of their investment into Bitcoin. But here's an interesting piece of it. And this is I wanted to loop this back to that group of people I mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm starting to see how these people connect to major organizations and industries. So you remember that whole group I mentioned with um, the military guys, Christopher Mellon, Lou Elizondo, Grush, and all them, that group.
Yeah. Hmm.
Christopher Mellon is connected to the Mellon banking dynasty. And that is, Mellon is, I mean, now that I hear that, like Mellon is a huge, I've heard of that name, that corporation before, and that is a big banking dynasty. So one
Wow.
of the most powerful, the former Deputy Secretary of Defense, not only connected to the CIA, also connected to one of the biggest banking financial dynasties in the United States history.
Wow.
So that's a piece.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and
Yes. The
and
mystery
then there's
thickens.
and then there's I mean, of course, the Vatican. Vatican is a wild card in this. Um, oh man, and I have a Vatican thread. I'll just go straight to it since it's on my mind. Um, Okay, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it has a reason. So let's jump back in time to the time of Henry VIII.
Okay.
And Henry VIII, King of England, is sending a letter to the Vatican. And let's say that you're the Pope. All right, Pope Doro Kiley. You're in charge of the whole Catholic Church. And the Henry VIII sends you a letter, says, "Hey, Pope Doro, I want a divorce. I want to get remarried. I don't like my wife. I want to get divorced. Will you let me get divorced?" And this is at that time, you're leading a church that doesn't allow divorce really,
Right.
right?
Right. That's
So
right.
what would your response be when Henry VIII said this to you?
Oh. I'll see what I can do. I don't know. Yeah, good
All right.
question.
Well, let's say you say no at first because that's really not in line with your beliefs and values. Let's
Yeah.
just, and so you say no, you can't. And then Henry VIII says, "I really want to get divorced," and pressures you.
Yeah.
And then, maybe you still want to say no. But then Henry VIII says, you know what? If you don't let me get divorced, I'm going to break England completely away from the Catholic Church. I'm going to form a new church, a Church of England. I'm going to make
Woo!
myself the head of that church just so I can get divorced. Would you still hold out and say, no, I'm not going to let you get divorced?
Uh-huh.
My, my point is, if the Pope had just said, fine, get divorced, the Pope could have kept the Catholic Church in its position of power over England and prevented the entire Protestant movement almost. Yet
I see, yeah.
he
Hmm,
didn't.
interesting.
And
Wow.
so, yeah, so the question is, maybe it wasn't just because he was a stubborn traditionalist. Maybe this goes back to one of the big threads in ufology, which is that there is non-human intelligence that has this incredible interest in how we breed as humans. And they care even more so about certain elite groups, which at that time was in royalty. And so maybe they did not want to they literally did wanted Henry VIII to breed with the person they had stuck him with. And it was a
Wow.
real threat to them for him to switch because it created a different line. And
Yeah.
because like it was such a foolish thing. They could have just let him get divorced.
Yeah,
It
I've
like led to the
mhm.
whole destruction of their power base.
That makes sense. I mean, I have heard, over and over that the bloodlines are, the most important thing to the higher up, ET influenced people.
Yeah.
So
And
makes sense.
so I'll just keep going with this thread, but you can
Yeah.
just jump in anytime. So so again, it's interesting that so the Catholic Church, it's there was like never a Catholic president until Kennedy, right? And it's like, why? Why was there such hostility in our country to a Catholic president? And still, I think it's a hard thing to become a president. I think we've had a couple Catholic. I think Biden might be Catholic,
Hmm.
but anyway, so that's like a weird thread, and then it connects back to this David Grush revealing the Pope was involved with the UFO disclosure. And after David Grush went on News Nation and said that the Catholic Church and the Pope in 1933 and 1945 they handed over a UFO to the president, within a month, like within 3 weeks after that, Bill Clinton made a trip to the Vatican and met with the Pope in private.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, he met with the Pope in private at his residence, and they said it was just for whatever. But I bet you the Pope was not happy that they were suddenly put on the map to have to talk about UFOs. And I just think Bill Clinton was a representative sent there to be like, hey, yeah, we have let this come out. And maybe to try to get the Pope on the side of the pro USA disclosure movement. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they're connected to something. But anyway, so that's one thread.
Yeah.
So this and the other thread that that this secret is an ancient story. This is a long standing story. In the group of secret keepers, a lot of people have said that the way the secret is kept through the ages is through genetic lines. You're in a family, like a mafia family, and it's
Right.
passed down generationally to keep the secret. And so, and also David Grush says the Department of Energy is one of the ways they've hidden this because they've called everything about UFOs nuclear secrets, and so it's hidden in um, the Department of Energy as a nuclear secret. All is one way to hide it. And it's outside of the Pentagon and outside of oversight that way.
Mm.
So there's only been one article that's come out that's really attacked David Grush. And it was one that tried to make him sound non-credible because he had some post PTSD from
Yeah.
experiences in Iraq and some of his buddies getting killed or one committing suicide. And that piece was written by a guy named Ken Klippenstein, and who's a sort of an obscure blogger journalist. But Ken Klippenstein's dad works for the Department of Energy. It's just like an interesting connection there that it's like it just
Yeah.
shows this possible like family line as part of the protective thing. And then the final another thread that's well, and the other thread is that Lou Elizondo, I've read in many places that he's a Freemason, like a high level Freemason. So that's one connection. But that guy I mentioned, Hal Puthoff, who's also part of the Lou Elizondo, David Grush, Christopher Mellon sort of disclosure, former CIA group. Hal Puthoff was a high ranking Scientologist.
Boy,
So,
it just gets more interesting.
yeah. And so we got this like, we have sort of, it looks like on the secret keeper sides, we've got the Department of Energy, we've got Lockheed Martin, and these military groups. And then we have on this apparently pro-USA disclosure side, we have Scientology, we have the Freemasons, we have the Christopher Mellon finance banking, you know, groups. So maybe that's sort of how it's divided. Maybe the finance world is now moved over to the side of a controlled disclosure, and you still have this group over here with this military, this group that has this horrible past of murdering presidents and murdering people and stirring up wars to make themselves wealthy, and they don't want it to ever come out because they're just going to look so horrible. But there's a group over here that's now maybe got control of the bulk of wealth. Maybe BlackRock is actually on the side of the USA controlled disclosure group. Okay, now this is the final thread, how it all comes together.
I was just going to ask, where does that tie into? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so the Bitcoin ETF
Yeah.
has launched. Okay, and it's an exchange. The SEC approved the Bitcoin exchange traded fund. 11 of them actually approved 11 of them yesterday, and it was like, and so everyone that was interested in Bitcoin went into their retirement accounts and their trading accounts yesterday morning, and they're like ready to buy the Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah.
And guess what? Three of the major brokers in the world, three of the big, Vanguard, Merrill Lynch, and UBS, all refused to let their customers buy the Bitcoin ETFs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
so BlackRock let them, Fidelity and BlackRock, they both launched ETFs, so they were like, they were on board. So the financial world is now revealed itself to be totally split on,
Yes.
but this is like, this is a really irrational split. So all over Twitter right now, people are posting that they're transferring their entire retirement accounts from Vanguard to Fidelity. Everyone is just like, these people that have been with Vanguard and Merrill Lynch for decades and decades, they have thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes people have $1 million in their retirement account, and they're just going over to Fidelity, and they're transferring their entire accounts because Vanguard is like, no, we don't. Bitcoin does not fit our philosophy, and we don't, believe it's too volatile to let our users
That's
buy
a
any.
tragic mistake, I think. Yeah.
It may not be a mistake. It may be a weird strategic move because
Ooh, yeah.
Vanguard owns a bunch of shares of BlackRock. And so they're letting their customers leave to go to a competitor, which technically they may still own. And what it's really doing is just blocking ordinary people from getting in early on the Bitcoin ETF. And it's giving plenty of time for the rich and the people connected with BlackRock to be in institutions to get in while the price is still below 50,000.
The games they play.
Yeah. It's crazy. But they are losing customers, and their reputation is getting crushed by it. And so it's like, I don't know how long they can last, but it's also irrational because Vanguard, they allow people to buy MicroStrategy, which is a company that basically just buys tons of Bitcoin. And so they let you do that. They let you buy mining companies, Bitcoin mining companies, which is just another way to get exposure to Bitcoin. It was letting people buy the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust before this. But now that the Grayscale Trust has converted to a Bitcoin ETF, it won't let them buy it anymore. It's just a weird,
Wow.
it's a weird, and so maybe the financial world, I mean, maybe this is the split in the financial world over Bitcoin. Maybe this is in some way metaphorically connected to the part of this split over disclosure and the relationship with aliens. I mean, maybe the same group that is tied to, I mean, I'd like it to break down the way that, you know, it was my preference. It would be the anti-Bitcoin group would be the same group connected to anti-disclosure, the secret keepers who killed presidents, who love wars, who use, you know, the ability to print money to fund their endless wars. And you know, I prefer that the Vanguard and them be on the side of the horrible secret keepers. But
Oh my
it's weird to
goodness.
think that maybe BlackRock is on the side of good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's yeah. You know, let's stretch the imagination a little real quick and say, what is the best case scenario that could come out of this?
hmm. I mean, the best case is a smooth transition to a much better world
Yeah,
where, you know, where people, uh, well, one, I mean, there are people saying that really Bitcoin, if we were in a world where the dollar was as solid as Bitcoin, if we had been using something like Bitcoin the last 10 years instead of the US dollar, then, you know, people that had saved $100,000 over the last 10 years would have saved Bitcoin over that time. And that Bitcoin, instead of being worth $100,000 today, would be worth like $600,000
yeah.
because the money would inflate and or deflate, whichever, yeah, deflate. And that it, if if we shift to a world in which you're using sound money, then there's, I mean, they're saying by using the US dollar, we're basically like indentured servants because you're using inflating money, so it makes you more, I mean, they use the word slave, like we're
Right.
really in like an economic slavery using these horrible currencies. So maybe we can transition to a world where we're using money we can trust, and we're using and we have decentralized media that is censorship proof, and people can collaborate and share ideas, and of course the flipping non-human intelligence reveal themselves, and they're enlightened and they're nice, and they we get to explore the galaxy with them.
And what do you think about the free energy issue?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's another thing I mean,
Yeah.
and David Grush says that there's energy technology being suppressed. That is actually another major thing that he says. And so that's nice that that's part of the USA Disclosure Group are willing to say that, because you know, Stephen Greer says is all over that and says, yeah,
He
they
really
have free
is.
entry. You can have a little box that can power your car forever, or your house, or I think he may even go so far as a tiny little box can power like a power plant.
And it's not tied into any grid. It's just you set it up and you're independent, right? Isn't that it? You're not
Yeah,
tied
he says
into, yeah,
yeah, he says there's no pollution, but I think,
right.
you know, I would say just from like a scientific point of view, I've heard some people suggest it's possible that that energy is coming from another dimension. And so there's a chance that the free energy technology might pollute a dimension we're not in. But that, I mean, that's one thought that's crossed my mind. Maybe maybe that's why the interdimensional beings don't want us to have it, because it damages their dimension. I don't know.
Isn't that
That's one of my
interesting?
theories. Yeah.
That's very interesting. You know, what is this energy? Is it chi? Is it conscious? I mean, you know, there's a lot of questions about energy to begin with. So if we all had free energy,
Mhm.
boy, that would change the whole fabric of society everywhere.
Yeah, and Gresh and them say it's the reason they don't want the energy, the free energy, is because it would just destroy their the economy, their oil based,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know, wealth, which is it's just like, it's so hard to imagine that people are that selfish, that they're just like, no, we have billions of dollars, we make billions of dollars off of oil revenues, we can't let the world have free energy because we can't turn off our money spigot. Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
really? That's I mean, is it? Do you not have enough money that you
I
have to have.
wonder if they're concerned about how to set up, how to switch over, because we are so completely on one side of the track, being dependent on fossil fuels and everything. The leap over to the other side of the track would be, I don't know. I mean, it would certainly be globally disruptive everywhere. And how do you make that transition?
Oh, we'd figure it out. Wait, we replace a power plant with a box,
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like easy problem to solve.
Okay. All right. We'll put you
I
in
get-
charge of that, Matt.
I mean, I just think, I think Stephen Greer said this, excuse me, that they're sitting on, like $1 trillion of oil infrastructure that will become worthless overnight.
Right.
And so they just don't want their, billions and billions of dollars of oil rigs and oil drilling things and all this to become worthless overnight.
Not
But
only that, but I mean, think of all the people working. Those are real people who are running that entire system. Probably millions and millions of people running this whole industry would be out of a job.
yeah, yeah, and it's my friend Terry would always say, the goal is the Star Trek universe where you have because in the Star Trek universe, for the most part, there wasn't really money. There was one episode where Captain Picard explained this to a guy that was frozen in time and from the 20th century and woke up there. He was like, I want to check on my investments. I'm sure they've done well. And Captain Picard is like, we don't use money anymore. And he's like, what do you mean? And Picard's like, everyone has whatever food and needs are met. And he's like, well, what do you do with your life if you don't try to earn money? And Picard says, you live your life to enrich yourself and to explore and to learn. I was like, what?
I gotta watch that one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a good. Maybe I'll figure out what episode that is,
that'd
and
be fun. Yeah, to
yeah,
watch.
it's the one where you can sort of just search the episode where the guy from the 20th century wakes up and talks to Picard. But the other funny thing about the Star Trek universe is they're not consistent with that, because if you watch Deep Space Nine, the another a branch off, you see on the fringes of the Federation, there's this space station called Deep Space Nine, and money is absolutely a big deal there. They use gold-plated latinum or something
Oh.
as a form of money, and the Ferengi are all into it and trying to get
Oh,
more of it. And so even they couldn't quite keep a consistent Star Trek universe that had absolutely no money. They just couldn't figure out how to do it, and that's kind of the way I don't see how we could not have. I could see basically a universal basic income that every person had, a little bit of Bitcoin or something every day that they could use to make sure that they had food and shelter every
yeah.
day. And then, but it would only, you wouldn't be able to get a mansion unless you earned more money, or, the nicest sports car or the nicest whatever. There's always going to be, some things are always more scarce and nicer than
You know what
others.
would be fun for everybody out there to watch? It's a very old documentary called The Zeitgeist Movement, and then another one, The Zeitgeist Moving Forward. Film director was Peter Joseph, and it was based on an idea uh, of this whole concept of a moneyless, cashless society. What would that look like? And these, gosh, I first watched them, had to be 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. No, more than 10. But yeah, it sort of outlines this whole idea of what a cashless world would look like. And I thought that was very interesting, but it did have a few problems in my view. But look it up. It's a great one to watch. It's a real, it'll make you really think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the darn non-human intelligence, the Galactic Federation, if they really exist and they're enlightened and they have this utopian cashless society, they could just show it to us.
Right.
They could just show us how it works. If
Yeah.
they really have a society that doesn't have a hierarchy of any form, I mean, show me how that will work. I'd love to
Yeah.
see it, you know?
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah. Well, would
But
you
yes,
like to close up with a few minutes of meditation, or do you
yeah.
have some more threads to share?
No, no, that was plenty. Now
That was
I'm
a
ready for a
lot.
meditation.
I look forward to these shows because you do bring a lot of information, and it just makes it fascinating.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. I'd go crazy if I couldn't, debrief with you every week on this.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So let's just spend a few minutes. Let's go with maybe 8 minutes, somewhere between 5 and 10,
Sure.
just to get people calm, get centered. I know that with this subject, a lot of people might feel anywhere from anxiety to excitement, whatever it is. It's stimulating, and so let's just lower that energy a little bit and come back to ground zero here, to be right where we are, feet on the ground, hearing the sounds around us. Let me ring a little bell here. We'll start with a couple of really deep breaths. And when you're taking in your breath, I want you to examine how your whole torso expands and then contracts, just releasing. We'll do that a couple more times. So the idea here is to begin to quiet the mind. And a lot of times it's really helpful to tune into the actual bodily senses. What do you feel? What do you hear? You could even open your eyes and just look around and say, well, what colors do I see? What shapes and shadows? Light? Just examining what is. This is a very grounding practice. And scan your body, looking for any tension. You might find tension in the shoulders or hands, facial muscles. So let's just watch this for a minute. Any sounds coming in, just watch them, how they arise and pass away. Things just show up out of nowhere into our sense field, and then they dissipate and vanish. Sounds, shadows, sensations. Maybe there's some aromas coming from your environment. So when the world gets too crazy, this is always a sanctuary to come back to the breath. We can at least rely on the breath as something mostly relatively real, something to hold on to, a good friend. So wherever you are, let's just sit for 1 minute with feet on the ground, or if you're sitting cross-legged, sensing the weight of your body being pulled to the earth. Feel how this earth supports you. And when the mind wanders, which it does, it's the nature of it, the most important thing is to notice it, that your mind has wandered. And when you notice it, that's the whole exercise right there, because that gives you the choice to continue on your thinking trajectory or to come back to your breath. Exercising that choice over and over again in the practice of meditation has a cumulative effect, so that your willpower, your sense of determination becomes developed. Coming back to the breath, breathing in, breathing out. In this meditative state, you can sense the receptivity. You're just ready for picking up anything that comes in through the senses, but also through your intuitive mind. And when you're in a receptive, peaceful, open-hearted space, every once in a while, you can get an insight. Some people would call it a download, or maybe a memory of some past understanding that you had forgotten. So these things can happen in this quiet, meditative place. Be open for that. You don't want to fabricate it or imagine it. It just happens sometimes. So this is a good practice to do throughout the day, even 1 minute at a time. We call them M&Ms, mindful moment. Just pause. Take a look around. Really acknowledge what you're seeing, what you're hearing, feeling, smelling, even tasting when you eat. This is a good time to just be in the moment. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Doro. Till
Have a
next
great
time.
week. All righty. Take care.